Today, I wanted to talk to y'all about being a Filipino American and to stop asking other people for permission. Stop asking other people for permission to live your life fully. And growing up, I was seen as somebody who was stubborn, somebody who didn't really listen, and I was made to feel bad for, I guess, I always had the audacity to do big things. And sometimes I would question things out of curiosity. And over again, I don't know if it happens in your family, but over and over again, I felt like whatever I was thinking would be squashed. Like if I had an idea, somebody would just shut it down right away. And thankfully, I've always had the audacity. Sometimes I felt like, I would fall on the ground. For example, for a long time, my mom wanted me to be a nurse, and I tried it for one semester and I was miserable. I wasn't doing well in classes, and it just was not aligned for me being in those classes and in that certain school I went to because I got a scholarship to go there. And so I declared my life as a creating and writing major and an English literature major. And while at the time, I know in the process, I was so mad at myself. I was like, maybe nursing is the easier way because I always had to work 2 times or 3 times as hard just to make, a good living, or a, maybe people would finally be proud of me if I just decided to do whatever everyone else was telling me to. But now, I would say, as a 33-year-old adult, I would still say stop waiting for permission to live your life. And another example is when I travel or study abroad, I didn't wait for everybody else's approval. And I know as like a Filipino American, we think collectively, like our hearts and souls are attached to each other. So opinions do matter. I'm going to say that. I didn't grow up feeling understood all the time. I felt misunderstood most of the time, and I actually feel like a black sheep in the family. And now as a 33-year-old, whoever is watching on the other side of the screen, I will say, like, work really, really hard to work on that guilt that you might feel for not being there for everyone else in the way that they expect and support. But you need to work on yourself in order to be that person who can support them and show up fully. Because I look around and some people who just listen all the time to what the group collectively has to think or what their parents said, they don't seem very happy. They don't seem to be taking risks in life. And now I've learned that at 33 years old, the risk that I took when I was younger is paying off now. It's paying off in the way that I interact with people, the way that I could be. The more risks that you take, of course, educated risks, I would say that it contributes to my happiness now. And this might have to do with our personalities, but I think it's also a muscle that needs to be worked on. I tried for 6 years, actually. I tried because I'm also married to a Mexican, and they also think very collectively. And I tried that way. I tried to listen to people's opinions and what they thought I should do or I should be, or as I assumed what they thought I should be as a wife and like a part of the community. I was miserable. It was not serving anybody. I don't think I would smile. You know what I mean? It just made me have like an avoidant personality. But now, when I see people in my family, or when I see people in my husband's family, I can show up authentically as me. And I know that I didn't arrive here just like by deciding I was no longer going to be guilty or I was no longer going to listen to what everybody thinks. But now that I embody myself and my thoughts and I actually honor what's going on in my intuition, I just feel so much more aligned. And some of the ways that I've done that, one way that I have really done that is journal. And I've been journaling for almost 3 years now, more than 1,000 days consecutively. And this is something that you can go by and get a notebook and a pen and spill it all out, your voice on paper. Because the more you listen to other people's opinions, the more that you just, listen to everybody else's voice but your own voice is going to be squashed. And how are you supposed to lead your own life if you constantly listen to everybody else and what they think? Also, the other big advice is like, don't ever listen to people's advice who you wouldn't trade places with. I do take advice from people, but I take advice from people who I would actually trade places with, and then people that I admire, like their life. And like, I admire their nervous system because they actually work on their nervous system on a daily basis. It's like a nervous system hygiene, I would say. But please don't listen to other people who are trying to project their fears on you, who are trying to project their limitations. And I know that they just want the best for us, but we ourselves need to have that discernment to, not see ourselves to other people's limitations. Like, God put a vision in your mind and give you your own gifts that not everyone might understand from the get-go. And I know I started this video for like Filipino Americans feeling guilty and serving everyone else all the time, but I can't say it enough. I urge you to stop asking permission from people all the time in order to live your life to the fullest. For me, trying to do that, like asking for permission or asking for validation, actually got me sick big time, because I was doing this at work. I was doing it in my personal life. And it wasn't until lung cancer, stage 3 at age 28, knocked my ass to the ground. That's what I would say. And I knew that there was something inherently wrong. Like, there were voices, the voices in my head were no longer friendly. I would hear like self-criticism all the time. And that wasn't always me. I was always this brave, spunky, joyful girl. But somewhere along the way, I had gotten lost and I listened to everybody else but my own voice. And somehow it got squashed. But writing in that journal, that's when the truth comes out. That's when my voice was able to finally have room to breathe, for space to breathe. And, as a Filipino American immigrant, like, that's life changing. Because sometimes in our collective communities, sometimes our own voice is seen as selfish. It can be seen as boasting. It can be seen as something silly and immature. But I think that as I've matured into an adult, I am so proud for listening to my own voice and finding my own voice again. Because I see people aging and they look so lost, And I would urge anyone in my life who feels lost, or you across the screen who feels lost, to journal and find your way back to yourself. Because the more we squash our voice, the more we don't listen to our intuition, it's bad juju. It lowers your own frequency. And it's just not a good equation. It doesn't serve anybody at all. And you might find resistance. Your own family might get mad at you for following your own voice. But trust me, if they really loved you, they will actually find a way to accept the new version of you. That's what has happened to me for the past 10 years. Like, they just learned to accept me for who I am and how I am. And they realize that I'm a really loving and giving person. But there's times that I have to show up for myself and do things for myself and not actually just follow what they're saying. I am proud to actually be the black sheep in my family, to do a lot of things first. and to be able to show my family the way out of, generational cycles. But yeah, I can't emphasize it enough that if you are Filipino American, like, please stop just listening to everybody else's voices and ideas on how you should run your life. I wish maybe this is the future me, right? The current me is reaching back to the younger version of me, maybe in my late 20s, where I was squashing my voice and like feeling so ashamed for following my intuition, because it's not like a one thing that you decide to follow your voice one day. It's like literally adversities every other month, right? You're falling on your face every other month, and then sometimes I tended to question myself, like, am I doing the right thing? I didn't listen to everybody else. And there's so much shame and guilt that communities who are not used to this, who are not used to a strong woman, they will make you feel ashamed for that without even knowing it. It's just projected. But as a Filipino American woman, maybe right now the one that's talking is current me reaching out to the past me that was younger to stay steady, to find my voice again through journaling and speaking. But yeah, that is my message for today. Please stop asking other people for permission to live your life fully. And whether you're married or in a relationship, find your way to have your own identity outside of that relationship. As of right now, I am still currently married and we're doing well and we're supporting each other in our dreams. But I would say 5 years ago, I couldn't even get myself to go and travel like on my own, or I don't know, my thoughts were just, maybe it's called, what is it called? Codependency. Maybe it's that. Like, I thought that I had to assume this role of like a wife who was mute and thought she should just settle because now she's married. But now I learned my husband doesn't even want that for me. He wants me to think for myself. And the stronger version has emerged for me. So, whatever your circumstances are, find your voice. Stop waiting for permission. And the more that you embody your voice and your true, authentic self, that sounds so cheesy. Your true, authentic self. Your true embodiment of who you really are, and embrace that process, because no one is ever really done with that process. It will actually benefit the others in your life. You will be a fuller version of you, and you'll start connecting with people who are doing the same thing. This is all done with intention, okay? You have to be really intentional about this. It cannot be automatic. I'm intentional about it every single day. I write it in my journal, like surrounding myself with people who have a healthy relationship with themselves. This has to be intentional work for all of us in 2026. If you're a Filipino American, please intentionally work on not feeling guilt. Okay? So I'm going to end this video now. Thank you so much for listening, and go live your best life, because even me with lung cancer stage 3, you just never know what the hell's going to happen, right? But even whatever circumstances you're in, tomorrow is not guaranteed. So might as well live a life where you have a healthy relationship with yourself. Thank you for listening.